We went on a reality dating show to find husbands. I lost my voice in a relationship. I'm the last single girl in my friendship group. Resentment's so normal. It's human nature. I can't dim myself for you.
Hi everyone and welcome back to the show with me, your host, Gemma. Today, my guest is Sarover Kaur Aujla, who many of you in the UK might recognise from the show Loveisblind UK Season 2 from last year. Sarover is back on our screen this year for the show has released a spin-off series called Loveafterthealtar, where we get a glimpse into where life has taken some of the cast members after the experiment. Now, for Sarover, her marriage with candidate Cal didn't work out and they ended up parting ways after a few months, which meant that they had to legally file for a divorce. In today's conversation, Sarover and I talked about how to give yourself grace when a decision that you wholeheartedly believed in didn't work out, how to navigate dating after a divorce or a bad breakup. How do you make peace with the fact that you don't have the life that you perhaps once imagined at a certain age or at a certain stage in life? But most importantly, how to stay true to yourself and keep on moving. I truly think there is something in this conversation for everyone. So if there is a part that resonates with you, please do me a small favor by clicking the subscribe button and liking this video. It is free, but it certainly helps a lot. Thank you so much, and let's get on with today's episode. Sarover.
Hello.
Hi, and thank you so much for joining me. We had a quick chat last week. I think we probably chatted on Thursday ahead of the episode for Loveafterthealtar that came out on Sunday.
Yes,
2 days later, we're here recording.
We are, and I'm excited to chat to you.
I'm really excited to have you on. Just a quick recap before we start. For anyone who hasn't watched the show, so Loveisblind is a concept that you went on 2 years ago?
2 years ago, almost, this month, 2 years ago, we were starting to film.
You started filming, and you dated sight unseen.
Correct.
Within pods.
Yes.
Got engaged, sight unseen.
Yes.
Then the big reveal happened. You went on a mini vacation, got to know each other's family, friends. Fast forward, you got to say yes or no to each other at the altar.
Correct.
And at that time, you and your ex-partner, Cal, said yes to each other.
Yes, we did.
I really want to start this conversation by asking you, going back to Loveisblind UK, what stayed with me was how your mom, who you're really close to, wasn't really on board at first, which completely makes sense. Her daughter's getting to know someone within a few days, within a few weeks. But then you really asked her to trust you with your gut, with your instinct, with what you saw in your partner at that time. Yeah. And she came around.
She did, yeah.
When you watch how it all played out, and this was a decision you so wholeheartedly believed in, got your family, your friends to come around, got them to say yes to the potential partner. When you watch how it didn't really work out, how does that sit with you? And the reason I ask this is, obviously, we had your mom on the show last year.
I know, so lovely. Yeah.
She was so sweet, and not once did she say, I want Sarover, I saw red flags. Your mom was really supportive, which was really amazing to see. But I would really ask this question for men and women perhaps watching you, where they've been in situations where they've dated, they've really saw the good things in a certain partner, convinced their family, and then eventually perhaps had to file for a divorce, found themselves, God forbid, being domestically abused, financially defrauded. And obviously you don't go into a relationship knowing all of this else, why would you, right?
No.
But how do you make sure that such an experience doesn't stop you from distrusting yourself forever?
I think, do you know what it is? When you go through a relationship, a heartbreak, it's a risk no matter what. And you do trust yourself. And I think for myself, you trust the information you have at the time.
Right.
And you go with the feelings you have, the information you have, and that's how you make decisions. And that's in life in general. When things don't work out, it's not a I told you so, or it shouldn't deter you from trusting yourself ever again. It's a learning. And I think what we all saw with my situation was we learned that, well, she trusted him. She went with her gut. It didn't work out. It's okay. Because in life, there's so many things that don't work out, whether it's in careers, whether it's in like friendships, romantic relationships, but life is growth. So you just learn, you move on, and you trust that growth. Because if I trust, and I have to, trust my healing journey and trust the growth I've had to move on, because we can't ever rewrite the past. We can't go back and change things. We can just make sure we make ourselves stronger and, you know, just believe in ourselves. That inner confidence you have, let that come out and continue to move forward, because otherwise there's so much more life to live. And why should we let the end of a chapter in any sort of way define our future that's still so bright? And you might not see it at the time.
True.
And don't get me wrong, at that time, you know, bless my family and friends having to pick me up, and even me not being able to actually see the light after that, thinking, oh God, like this was supposed to be it for me and it didn't work out. What's left? And you know, you're 30 at the time and you're thinking, oh God, like 30 timelines. Yeah, and you do, and you're looking around. I'm thinking, oh my God, my little sisters are in long-term relationships. What's happening to me? But look at me now. Like when I look back 2 years ago when we were filming and the relationship, you know, I was trying to figure things out. I lost a spark. I lost a light. And now I have that light. I have that spark. Things didn't go to plan. But yeah, the future is bright. And you just have to believe that.
And dealing with that little voice that goes, everyone warned me, because it's been amazing watching your healing journey. And your mom talked a lot about it, by the way. If anyone wants to go and watch the episode with your mom, that was last summer, and she was really amazing on that show. You've had an amazing healing journey, and perhaps not everyone will be as lucky, as strong, as resilient as you. You had such a strong support system. And I do wonder about those people who might have that little voice saying, everyone did warn me. They did see the red flags before me. I don't want to do this ever again.
Yeah. I would say for me, I'm very, I have to say, very lucky and very blessed. The fact that my relationship got documented, people got to watch it and give their opinion to me, because a lot of it, actually all of it, came from a lot of love. And when I saw that, and, you know, I was being told there's a type of, I think it's what type of personality is it? The one where they're avoidant.
The avoidant personality.
Yeah, so I started being told about avoidant personalities. There was a psychologist on YouTube who completely went through all these personality types, and I took it as a learning. Even when people said, how did you not see the red flags? Like, we love you, but how did you not see the red flags? And I was like, actually, now I do see them, and that's okay to see them later. And it's okay for people to say all that. It's an opinion. And I'm really grateful to the public, because they really helped me through my healing. And if you don't have that, and I know a lot of people won't have that. And I did say, God, I'm so lucky that I can literally open my phone and see love and support there. You know, you have a low day and I can open it up, and yes, okay, I should have been able to see a lot more, but you reflect, you move on. Like, that's what you have to do. And I feel that maybe we use mine as an example. You know, if anybody sees that and thinks, okay, actually I can relate to that, or I've been through that, or I know a friend who's going through that, use it as an example, because I'd rather help someone through what I went through than anything else.
I love this, and thank you for sharing this so openly and so publicly, because for you, I guess it must have been particularly more difficult because it was on a public show.
Yeah.
And what you say there is really important to highlight. You mentioned you couldn't have done any more with the information you had there.
No, I couldn't.
And it reminds me, I think it's a theory by Dr. Christine Neff. I keep geeking on these theories. I just love reading about them. But there's one that goes about self-compassion.
Okay.
And it talks about how healing from breakups, failures, bad situations tends to come more from self-compassion than self-criticism.
Oh, wow.
And self-compassion doesn't have to do with lowering your standards eventually as you move on, but it's more about acknowledging the fact that taking a decision with imperfect information at a time is just part of human nature. 100%.
And this is why with After the Altar, it's really interesting to see how us girls were so strong, and how we because, you know, it's not normal to have to confront an ex. It's not normal to be in a situation where you're with all your friends' exes and all these conversations are about to come up. But I think the growth in that is just watching that, being like, wow, look how much they've learned, look how much they've grown, look how much they've moved on. And it takes a lot to bring up the past, I think. And I'm not sure if not everybody gets that. And if you do, it's like, what do you do with it? And I think a lot of us went on there because people have said to us, like, why would you do that to yourselves? Why would you put yourselves through that? Like, our heart breaks for you to have done that.
Like after 2 years and go back home.
Yeah, 100%. But we didn't do it for the boys. We did it for ourselves. We did it because we're stronger. And it's not rebelling, because I know there's a lot of people who say like, oh, why didn't you just say it is what it is, just move on? Like, who cares? Like, he's irrelevant, they're irrelevant, you know, they have their lives, we have our lives. It's not that. It's the fact that sometimes speaking up is seen as like, you are rebelling. In certain cultures, it is seen like that. It's like, oh, just leave it be, let it brush under the carpet. We're like, no, we'll hold you accountable, and that's that, and we move on. So,
and that healing and that progress and that self-growth was very, very visible watching all the girls. I know I think it was just 3 episodes, like 40 minutes each, but it was very visible. And I think what's really beautiful here is that sometimes the biggest casualty in such dynamics, in such experiments, tends to be not always the relationship with the other person, but the relationship with yourself.
100%.
And it was so amazing to see how you girls have just reinforced that relationship. It was all like self-love, me first, let me address like all these different, not weaknesses per se, but all of the things I really needed to work on just to back myself and to boost myself.
And we did. We had loads that we needed to work on. Because like, if anybody can remember back to the season we were on, like season 2, I lost my voice in a relationship. Like, I saw this like bubbly person at the beginning, and then fast forward towards the end, and I'm letting him speak for me. And I thought, that's not me at all. And I think like Ashley even says that she mentioned like I overcompromised in that relationship. And now she's looked back on it, she goes, I deserve better than that, or I know my worth. And it's like, we went on a reality dating show to find husbands, and what we found was self-love and self-confidence and friendships.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. And I think that just shows how genuine us girls were. And it's amazing to see, because from a reality dating show to have such strong friendships, I think is quite unheard of.
I think your friendship with Ashley, who we also had on last year, and she's amazing. We sent each other voice notes after the show, as I was telling you. I think your friendship with Ashley is one that the audience really took to, and it was amazing just watching the two of you go through it together.
Yeah.
Can I ask, the show came out 2 days ago.
2 days.
How have you been?
Do you know what? Good. Definitely good, but it was just an emotional roller coaster. So I had Katisha and Bada who stayed at mine, so we watched it together, and then we saw Ashley yesterday. And I think we're so proud of ourselves, and we're so proud of our friendships and our growth and how we were sticking up for each other. And one thing I said to them was, and I said it to my mum as well when I woke up the next day, I was like, out of everything I watched in those 3 episodes, I said, we saw girls defending each other, sticking up for each other behind their backs in different rooms. And how amazing is that, to know you've got a friend who will back you up and you're not even in that room. And I think that's quite rare in friendships. And I think it just speaks volumes. It really does. And I was just really proud of us all, because it wasn't easy. Whether some of us had closure in a certain way, whether, like me, it was a bit more like drama. We really were just, there for each other. And it was amazing. It really was. So, it's been a whirlwind the past 2 days.
Can you imagine?
To the point, I'm on my second coffee and I've spilt one on me today. But we're good.
You're good. I'm really interested in not the why of the events and the what of the events, but how it led you to feeling differently, to shaping your life differently maybe after the show. And one of the things I really wanted to address, so there's this part where your ex-partner Cal talks about his relationship on the show. And one of the things I feel many of us human beings, we perhaps do not want to admit quite openly, is the pain of seeing an ex moving on. And rightly or wrongly, they may not have been the right person for us, but perhaps just human nature in terms of comparing and seeing them move on with someone while we're still there in the same position. And you and your female cast members were talking about the fact that he's obviously communicated his relationship status pretty publicly. And you wanted to address the lack of respect in your eyes. There are a few layers I really wanted to tackle here. First, maybe self-doubt and loss of confidence, because at some point, there were even talks of chalk and cheese, incompatibility. And sometimes when a relationship ends, And unfortunately, when the communication is quite patchy and we're left without answers, it's quite normal. And at least I've been there in my 20s, where we tend to turn the spotlight a bit inward. It becomes a question of, what did I do wrong? Was I not their type? Rather than asking or telling ourselves that it might not be us, but this situation has to do with them.
Yeah.
There was a point on the show where you talked about your lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there could be anything here that you want to say to other people going through the same thing.
I think one thing is never to blame yourself, never to doubt yourself, never to think, maybe I wasn't enough, maybe I could have done things differently. I think what I would say to others is that was a chapter of your life. You were in that relationship for a reason. It works both ways. And sometimes it might not have been compatible, and that's okay. Sometimes you can look back on it and think, well, actually, you know, we were different in these areas, but when you meet the right person, there's always someone for someone. I always believe that. There really is. And whether that ends up being a romantic relationship or not, it's just don't blame yourself. Like when I look back, when he started to say things like that, and if others have heard that as well, like, you know, oh, we weren't meant to be, or we were really different people, or chalk and cheese. And actually, that's all the things he did say, actually. Yeah, I think there's a few more I could add to that. And it's like, okay, that's your opinion and that's fine. But we were together for a reason. And exes don't acknowledge that. We can't expect an ex to be like, well, actually, you know, we worked because of this and we worked because of that. They're not going to do that. We can't expect that. But it's okay. Like, and yeah, you have to move on from it. That's the thing. And to be fair, yes, I saw, you know, and he went public with her, and obviously you see things on social media. Maybe we are really different. And to be fair, he did say, like, as in my ex did say, you're not my usual type. And that was a whole thing last year. Well, when I look now, the person he's with and he seems really happy with is the complete opposite to me in a lot of ways. So you've gone back to your usual type, and that's that.
And what about resentment, if I may ask?
Yeah.
Because I think Ashley even had this moment. She said, if I were to find out that he's back out there dating, it might be a bit of a stab.
Yeah. It is. It is a bit of a,
yeah.
Resentment's so normal. Resentment's normal. Like, my God, the things that I've probably said behind closed doors.
We all perhaps have been there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just not even probably be able to air half the stuff I've said. But it's normal. It's human nature. You know, you go through the ifs, the buts, the whys, the I hate them, and, you know, why can't things be different? And it's so normal. And I think when she said that, she was being so real about that. And I think to get over it, you let it out. Whether you shout it from the rooftops, whether you process it in a different way, you talk to a therapist about it, let it out though. If you harbour it in, honestly, it just eats at you. And that's what I did when we broke up. That first, I would say at least month, I was in denial. I didn't tell my closest friends. It was obviously January, everybody wants to do couple dinners, and I was making up excuses. When I finally admitted what had happened and leaned on my friends and family, or lent on my friends and family, that's when I was able to actually heal and move on. And that's when the resentment started to sort of dissipate. And that's when that started to happen. But yeah, resentment's normal. It's okay. Just don't start getting like voodoo dolls or anything like that. Like, there is a limit.
I think sometimes people talk a lot, or like therapists will talk a lot about the need to forgive.
Yeah, you do need to forgive.
Do you think so? What about like forgetting but not forgiving?
I don't think you'll ever forget. I think, you know, our whole life is like a book, and they're chapters, and, you know, you don't forget what you've been through. I don't think I'll ever forget, like, you know, I got married. I have a divorce certificate will come through in 2 days, actually.
Oh, wow. It's taken that long.
That long. So, and yeah, so when we filmed all that, we were still married and everything. So yeah, you don't forget, but you have to forgive for yourself. You don't have to forgive them for any other reason, but just for your own self. And to be fair, I don't think anybody's asked me if I forgive him yet. I think that's the first time. But I think looking back on it all, yeah, you have to forgive.
So you've forgiven?
Yeah, I have to. I really, I think I still have a bit more work to do.
You have to, but do you want to?
It's hard. I think, do you know what it is? When it comes down to a marriage, I think no matter if it's on a TV show, it's an experiment, no one forces you to do anything. And if you really, truly believe in what marriage stands for, you don't go into that lighthearted. You don't say yes and sign the papers lightheartedly. But again, that's how I see it. And that's how I think how majority of people see it. But maybe that's not how the other person will see it.
Interesting. I asked that question for myself and perhaps other women and men. I do feel like over time, I've accepted that I am someone who would keep a grudge.
Yeah. And I think there's a part of me that
there's a part of me that would feel a bit like, you go your way, but you know, I'm similar to you. I may not forget, but I don't have to forgive. Especially if you've really been mean and toxic to me. Yeah. I'm over that. I'm over that sort of, what do you call it? Spiritual spectrum of like forgiving. Yeah. I'm like, I'm content. I'm at peace with how things unfolded, but I don't really have to forgive your bad behavior.
Yeah, and it's true. But it's like, if I think back to my parents, so like my parents divorced, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. My mum moved on eventually, like years later, like she remarried, she moved on. And she's able to be in the same rooms as my dad. Yeah. She's able to put us girls first at times. And that's her. And then when I look at my dad, and I think I've asked him before, like, do you forgive mum or forgive, you know, that situation? Obviously it was, you know, a divorce is in the end joint. And I don't think he does. And I feel like there's some part of him that still hurts, and it's sad to see. And I feel like I don't want that, because I know that's held him back a lot. And even if I talk to him, like, he still gets triggered by it. And God, that was over a decade ago. And I feel like I don't want that. I don't want unharbored feelings and unharbored resentment, because if anything, you still see hurt and pain. And that was so many years later. And I feel like if my parents were still together now, maybe I'd be like, yeah, of course I don't have to forgive him, move on, whatever. Because I have a healthy, you know, parental relationship to look up to. And I think when your parents do go through divorce, it does change it a little bit, because you feel like, I don't want to feel like that going forward.
Can I ask you a question? It may feel very personal. Having seen your parents go through a divorce, how much of that did you want to avoid going into your own relationship?
Yeah, a lot, if I'm going to be honest. And I truly thought I've met the one, because in my head I was going through all of this, like, does this work? We speak. You have to speak about the future. And I think I spoke about the future behind closed doors so much, because for me it was like, the future can change. I've seen it happen. I've seen two people be in love and then it fizzles out. And obviously for my parents, it was like 25 years later that all happened for them. But I didn't go into it lightheartedly at all for that reason. And I think when you do come from a background where my parents are divorced, you are a bit more skeptical. You are a bit more, does love really exist? Is love truly forever? You know, I've had friends whose parents are divorced, and for them, they took ages to get married, like years and years all together. And at one point I had two of my closest friends were like, well, we don't even think we need to get married, because they didn't see the need for it. And actually they did eventually.
They did.
Almost like 15 years later.
Always tends to happen to people who never believe in it. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh, they're happily married.
Yeah, and I think that's why. But I think now, retrospectively looking back on it, I should have given it more time. Because if I'm really standing by what I'm saying right now, you do give it more time. No matter how aligned I felt everything was, I feel like maybe I should have tested the water to be like, well, why don't we say no for now? We date in the real world. And then we'll see. Then we see. So yeah, and again, that's a growth. But with what I had at the information at the time, and the situation I was in, I just genuinely thought I was in this love bubble, and in the fairy tale.
And just to conclude, this particular situation that I brought up, and maybe to balance this whole equation, obviously I can't speak for your ex-partner, but at one point he said, he's perhaps eating his own words here. Yeah. For he had said previously that if it's not Sarover, it's no one else. He's not meant for a relationship. Yeah. And perhaps trying to play devil's advocate here and preempting the question that some of the audience members might ask. And it would have been interesting actually to see the sort of gender breakdown behind some of the answers to this question actually. Yeah. But he talks about how he didn't think it would happen, but he met one person and it somehow changed his way of thinking, his way of viewing, and it happened. And apparently it happens when you least expect it. Do you believe in that? Like, you will have people, you know, going back to the point you previously raised, that some people are like, why are we even addressing this 2 years later? Get over it.
Yeah.
You will have people who say, yes, it's within his rights to have a change of mind, to have met someone wonderful. And I do wonder if you've heard about the taxi theory.
No.
Me and my girlfriends, we've been talking about it. Actually, I've been talking about it to my guys, to my friends, to my girlfriends, to my mates over dinners. But the taxi theory is one about readiness when it comes to man.
Okay.
Unlike women who want the ideal partner, the ideal person they want to spend the rest of their lives with, to build a family with, men, actually, when they get married, in some cases, the person they end up with is not the most amazing woman they may have ever dated. It just happened to be the woman they were dating at that time because they felt ready at that time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, now, it feels like the right time. I'm going to stop a taxi, hail a taxi, get in.
Yeah.
That's the taxi theory. And in so many cases, you may find someone, I've personally had friends who've been in a relationship for years and years with a particular man. They break up after 4 or 5 years. I've literally had a friend who, her ex-partner got with someone within 6 months, and a year later they were married. And bear in mind, they had been together for 5, 6 years. And obviously there's compatibility and so on. But the taxi theory is really about when men feel emotionally, financially ready, and they just feel like now is the time to take the plunge.
Yeah.
Unlike women who might be dating on the lookout for the ideal partner. So do you wonder, putting that into context, would you somehow agree with perhaps the other side of the equation, that he may have had a change of mind?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to be honest. Like, when I look at how that all happened, and I think you can have a change of mind. You can meet someone and you're like, oh, this is actually what I want, and this is what I was looking for, and I didn't realize this is what I maybe needed. And of course you can. That I think that's quite almost normal. It's awful for the person, the one who's not with that person anymore, because then it hurts. But I think for my situation, it was just the way it happened. I think because we broke up in January, you've moved on, like, what was it, in 3 months? I saw pictures. I know the timelines are all over the place on the show, but it was literally 3 months I see photos. And I was like, okay, like, that was really, I'm still trying to even survive here. And how can I even think about moving on, and how it happened so quickly? I'm not going to question it. It is what it is. I can go into be like, maybe he was speaking to her whilst we were together and things like that. But it doesn't help me. It's not healthy to think like that. But it's the fact to go on a public platform at the reunion that same year and say all of what he said, if it's not Sarover, it's no one. And I'm not for a relationship and all this, but you'd been in that relationship that whole year. So I think it's just the deceit. I think that's 100%. Really hard. And plus at that point, it would have been his longest relationship ever. So it's like, why lie? You know what I mean? If you're going to put yourself on a public platform, one thing about me is I always want to be myself. And I've always said that to everyone. Like, I want to utilize my platform in a way of being authentically me, where people can relate more, people can, just because social media could be so fake. It's like, we don't need another fake person on social media. We really don't. So I think, for me, that's why I have a little bit of,
It's the lack of respect.
It's a lack of respect. It's the deceit, all of that. That just doesn't sit well with me. It's like, just be honest. Like, you could have come to that reunion. You could have come to that spin-off and be like, look, at the end of the day, I did meet someone. It happened. I never told you. I probably should have given you a heads up because of the public side of it. If this was a relationship off social media, off the public, there was no show. Yes, okay, it's a divorce. Still have a bit of respect, actually.
On,
I can't. I'm more trying to even justify. I can't. Yeah,
it doesn't excuse it, right?
Exactly. So, just going back to it, was just maybe you can meet someone that it does align. Just don't lie. Just live a truthful life, and that's it.
100% with you here. And I think I just had to ask that question because I can see it from miles. Like, men and women, perhaps.
Yeah, but sometimes women move on quite quick as well. And I think, and it can be on the flip side. Like, my parents, like, my mum moved on. My dad actually never did move on afterwards. And, you know, obviously there's still life to be lived, and he might do in 6 months or a year or in 5. But yeah, and it happened the other side. And he feels like how I'm sat talking, that could be him. So it can happen either way. I think it just depends on the person. I don't think it's a gender thing. I know statistically probably more men do move on a lot more quickly. But
I wonder why, by the way. I mean, what's the science behind it? Maybe that could be something for another pod. I don't know. But like, I do wonder.
Good to look into.
Definitely. Yeah. Speaking of moving on, how has life been after the show? One of the things we very briefly exchanged when we were organising this pod was perhaps the fact that you haven't really addressed what's been the dating experience after the show. And you went through divorce, and I know the statistics are pretty recurring and pretty high, especially for our generation. And I wonder what it is like putting yourself back out there, especially, I mean, in your case, the narrative being slightly trickier with the fact that you've been on a public platform. What has it been like?
Oh God. So dating is wild. Like it's not got any easier or any better. So it took me, till almost the end of the year. So almost a year to really put myself back out there. And I told myself, and I still kind of stand by this, I don't want to go on dating apps. I just want it to be organic. I want it to be natural. I want it to be, if it's meant to be, it'll be, and really trust the process in the universe. I really am kind of holding my hands up in that department. I'm like, I don't want to do the work anymore. It's, you know, it takes.
Do you feel you've done the work? Do you feel like you are at a place where you've done the work you needed to do?
A lot, but I still feel like there's stuff to be had, because I did date a guy for a couple of months, or maybe it was just under a couple of months, and he was everything I would have wanted on paper. And, you know, there was chemistry, we were enjoying each other's company. And then it got to a point where I was like, I feel like something's missing. And I couldn't pinpoint it. And I was really trying to figure it out. And I realised, well, maybe it's just not the relationship for me. And it got to a point where he kind of, you know, wanted that serious conversation of what's the next steps now? Like, you know, where are we going? And I kind of said, like, I'm ready to take it slowly this time. I don't want to rush into anything. And for him, you know, age-wise, he was like, well, if that's where you stand, I don't want to waste my time. End it now, sort of thing. And
fair.
And I bounced back like that. And I think that was the growth in me to be like, okay, well, maybe we aren't compatible and that's okay, and I move on. Whereas, you know, Sarover years ago would have really struggled, be like, okay, let me try and make it work. Let me overcompromise. And I was like, no, that's okay. So yeah, that was one situation. Then it took me a few months to recover. In the fact of like, okay, now you do have to put yourself out there again. You can't just try once and be like, oh, it didn't work out. Let's, you know. And then I did date someone recently. And again, it was a couple of months almost.
Okay.
And that ended because it almost felt, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was fun. I almost thought like, am I doing this because I'm supposed to be in a relationship? And I started questioning that. And then I think we just kind of like lost that a little bit. And well, he ended it actually. And he ended it because he said that I'm on a path to greatness and my energy is a lot higher than his, and he's looking for calm. Yeah, that was, in May.
Interesting. What did you make of that?
And you know what? I listened to him. We were on FaceTime because I was actually on holiday and I was actually flying home the next day. And I just thought, oh, do you know what? Here again, a man's doing it on his terms, his time. And he couldn't wait 24 hours till I got home. And that was the first holiday of the year I'd done where I was not on my phone.
And he knew that?
He knew that. I was not doing social media. I wasn't posting. I just needed a break. And it was good. I needed that. I really, really needed that. He knew that. And when he said that, I just let him talk. And I thought, no, I want to hear more. Like, surely there's more to this because, you know, energy is a big thing to throw out to someone. And I said to him, I said, like, when you're in my energy, do you feel calm? And he was like, yeah. Because I said, you know, if you don't feel calm in someone's energy, that's a huge red flag. Like, even I would say to someone, if you don't feel calm around me, please don't put yourself, that's not, you know, it's not okay. And then he was kind of like trying to go around it, but that's all he could really say. And I did think, I was like, if I was any calmer than I am, like, would I be breathing?
Because the wording, you're on a path to greatness, is beautiful.
Yeah, but it's almost like...
But it's just like, it's a bit of a grey thing to say to someone, I feel.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to say to someone like, oh, you're doing all of this and you're up here and I'm like, do I need to dim myself for you? And that's how I took it. I was like, well, I can't change my energy. I can't dim myself for you. I can't stop whatever path you think I'm on to maybe fit into someone else's life. And I just was like, okay, cool. And, you know, he did say, like, do you want to talk about it? I was like, no. I was like, that's okay. I said, I'm not what you're looking for then, and that's fine. And again, it was like, God, a second situation where I was like, I'm okay. I can move on from that. You're not my person, and that's fine. So, yeah, now I'm single again. Fast forward. Yeah. Meaning it's hard out there. It's not easy. It's not easy, but you just deal with it differently.
Right.
And it's not going to stop me going forward, going into maybe, let's say, you know, I meet someone else and we start dating, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But don't hold yourself back. Don't hesitate and live in fear. Like, if we live in fear of, oh God, like, we just went through this, and, you know, like, I've gone through it twice now since my ex, and it's like, it's okay. It's fine. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, we wish we could just meet the one and it falls into place. And so many people are lucky to have that. But some of us aren't. I'm one of them, and we move on. We have to.
I feel like this generation of women, it's been fascinating to watch. And even talking to my mom, to my aunties, sometimes they get it, sometimes they do not get it. But I do feel like we women have worked so hard for, yes, the granted one that everyone talks about these days is financial independence, but there's more to it, right? We go to therapy, we are on a spiritual path, we question our emotions, we question what other people are telling us about our own emotions. And I do wonder, like, does it make it harder in terms of, you know, dating, because the awareness is so real, it's so heightened?
I actually think it does, because I think, let's say, like, if I take myself, for example, let's go back 5 years, I probably would have settled in one of those, because both of them were looking for a long-term relationship. I probably would have done, because I hadn't worked on myself. I didn't know what was outside in the world. Like, God, there's so much to do in the world. There's so much to learn. There's so much knowledge out there. And the more we talk, like, even podcasts, like, you hear someone else's journey and you pick up things. And I think it does make it harder now, because women know their worth. We know what we deserve. We know our worth. We're more confident. We can stand on our own 2 feet. We have jobs. We have goals and dreams. And we've learned sometimes you can achieve them. Even if you feel like you can't, there are ways. And you might not make it here, but you can try. And I think back then, life was maybe, you can't achieve these goals and dreams, or they're not available to you. Those opportunities aren't there. So you may settle. So I guess it makes it harder, because our standards are higher.
And our patience level is lower.
Way lower. Like, when you hit your 30s, like, you probably can tell, like, we're tired.
I love my mum to bits, but it depends on the days I speak to her. There are days when she's on my side, and then there's that one random day where she goes, you're just really picky. And she would go, I keep praying for you. I don't know what you want. We both talked about how we are in our 30s, and my mum is 30, as in wanting me to be with someone, especially that my twins, I have a twin. My twin sister got married last year. Oh, wow. And so she's now on my case, and my mum is trying harder. Yeah, my mum is trying harder than me, bless. But, you know, when we, if I were to bring this conversation into conjunction with the idea of having a family, us being in our 30s, and I don't know where you are at in terms of wanting a family, wanting kids. I certainly want a family one day. I do want kids. And it's been interesting, actually, speaking to my friends, even, you know, without quoting names, but friends and even like first cousins, people I've grown up with who suddenly are like, I do not want kids. Yeah. Like, I know that for a fact, like, I do not want kids. And I've been really fascinated in trying to understand where that's come about, because bear in mind, these are people I've grown up with. Like, we've played, and we've always been like, oh yeah, one day when I have my baby, I'll be dressing up my baby, la la la. And suddenly it's like, no, I don't want kids. On the topic of wanting kids or not, I think one of the scientific or biological things we can't escape is women's fertility and women's health, right? So I did want to address this while speaking to you, given I think like you will sort of get it. Yeah. Let me ask the question first of all, like, do you want kids one day?
I feel like I'm one of your friends right now because I've been having these conversations with myself. I feel like when you're in a happy, healthy relationship, it is what you want sometimes because you see it, it can happen. And I feel like being like, single, 31 now, I don't know anymore because I don't know if it's for me anymore. I don't know if it can happen for me anymore. I don't know when I'm going to meet someone, if I'm going to meet someone, because I think there's so many unknowns. I do struggle to see that for myself. Of course, it'd be lovely to have a family. Of course, in timelines, it would be great to have your own sort of, and that's all I ever wanted. Oh my God, growing up, that's all I ever thought. To be fair, I thought husbands really were just to be the fathers of our kids. Like, that's kind of how I saw it.
Stop it.
Yeah, like,
crack me up.
Literally,
nothing else, just that.
Yeah, just be a good dad. That's what you're needed for. I don't know anymore. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. And I think it's because a lot of my life is up in the air right now.
Right.
And I feel like if I just continue to work on myself, I continue to heal, I explore the world, I travel more, I make more memories with my friends. Because, when you go through so much, like even when you add social media into it, I've neglected a lot of relationships in the past year. Like even my friend today, I had to apologize for not being at a really important event for her on Sunday because, I was watching the show, it just come out and, you feel bad. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot more going on in my life besides the thoughts of, do I want a family? But I think what's great is the fact we can talk like this.
Right.
And I think women who are now contemplating that or thinking, can this happen for me? Or do I really want kids? Or should I be thinking that? Is that wrong to think that because it's such a gift to be able to give birth to a child? Right. Am I feeling guilty now to have these thoughts? Should I always say, of course I want them, of course I want them, to not put anything out into the universe against that? But it's healthy to have those chats. And I feel like as a woman, you can have that. It's not a taboo now to be like, to even be honest about it. So
100%. But also, I feel like there is a lack of awareness and education. I say this just because I am on this sort of journey where I'm trying to educate myself a lot more. And I recently met up with a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine. She's 29, about to turn 30. And we've had the conversation was very much like she's with a partner and she's been debating, like having kids or not. And she goes to me, isn't it interesting that our moms just did it because
that's what they thought
happens, right? While we are on this path, on this sort of quest to find the ideal partner, I could probably have a child and raise that child on my own right now, right?
And there's that.
But still, there's this whole thing of like, who is the right partner I want to raise this child with? And speaking of which, I think one of the things I've been really telling my girlfriends about is that if you do want to have kids, please do the basics of go and have your fertility test done.
Yeah, there is that.
That's been super eye-opening, and I think this is perhaps the first time I'm saying this quite publicly because I haven't been talking about this on the podcast, but I recently took my AMH test, which basically tests your sort of, it doesn't give you the number of eggs you have in your reserve or whatsoever, but it gives you a sort of range, and it's very wide-ranging depending on your age group, but it gives you an idea of where you are in terms of the rate of decline of your eggs. And please don't sort of quote me on the actual scientific explanation, but I think what's been really helpful is to know whether your eggs are really diminishing at a certain rate and quite rapidly, or whether it's kind of about healthy. And that in itself is a good starting or data point to know where you want to base yourself or where's your mind at. Do you want to sort of consider egg freezing, or if not, do you want to accelerate, maybe getting to know someone because you really want to do life with someone? So I think those conversations have been interesting, just seeing them taking place around my friends.
Hearing you say that actually does make me think as well, thinking, well, I'm saying it very nonchalant, but if the chance to have kids was taken away from me,
how would you feel?
How would I feel? And would I be approaching dating very differently right now? Which has made me think, actually, I should probably, I think I should educate.
We can talk about it after the recording. But I think having done it quite recently, I've been telling my girlfriends, and everyone's been like, why? I didn't even know what test to take.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Because I knew about egg freezing, because when I turned 30, I had a friend, a much older friend, and her niece had just turned 30 and frozen her eggs. And she said to me, she goes, Sarover, you're not going to freeze your eggs? You're turning 30. And I was
I've had friends and cousins, and forget friends and cousins, sisters of friends in their 20s.
Wow.
Gen Z being so high, like so up there, being like, have you frozen any eggs? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, and and do you know what? To be fair, I love direct because I feel like it's just so much easier to navigate. Yeah, and no, I didn't, and I haven't. But I feel like I'm glad you did mention this. That I probably should just at least be aware what my situation is on the biological clock side, because it could probably change, the way I do date. Yeah, never thought
that. Or if not, then think about what you want to do for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can believe in that, trust the process, trust the universe, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I am such a firm believer in that. But I also feel like, it's good to have the knowledge.
And the backup.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Sarover, we're getting to the end of this podcast. It's nice to be ending on this sort of note of women's fertility. There's hope for everyone. Let's just educate ourselves. Let's talk more openly about it. Away from relationships, away from your Loveisblind journey, what would you think of this version of Sarover now, and if you were to compare this version of you 5 years ago? And I do wonder, for so long, I think there's been this thing of arrival fallacy, right? I will be happy when I get married. I will be happy when I have kids. I will be happy when I buy a home. And it's really normal, especially to compare yourself to your friends, right? Like your friends buying their property, getting married, like having babies. Is there a part of you that, sort of calmly, not in a sad way, but just very calmly grieves this perhaps stage of life where you thought you would have reached already and you might not be here?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it takes a lot of strength to acknowledge that. And you do grieve it, because I think I am the last single girl in my friendship group, and everyone's bought their homes now. They are married. My best friend gave birth in January this year. But I just have to remind myself on those low days when I have those thoughts that wasn't my timeline. Their timeline wasn't my timeline. And all these generations where we've seen this specific timeline being followed, who made that up? Who said by 30 you should be settled down, have children and buy your house? Who said it couldn't have been 25 or 20 or 40 or even later on in life? So I just remind myself I am where I'm meant to be. I'm proud of where I am, because going back 5 years, I was so narrow-minded. I only knew about generational cycles. I only knew about the society's timeline. I was chasing things that maybe I didn't even enjoy, conforming, making others proud. Like, God, I can list and list and list. Like, people pleasing was another one. And now I look at myself and I'm like, God, you are content. You're finding happiness in the small wins, because that's so important. We don't need big wins and certificates to prove our worth. And I find memories, I enjoy things, and I'm looking at life so differently. And it's just so nice to be in that space, because of course I wish I was settled down. Of course I wish I was, in a different place right now and so much further ahead. But if I think like that, I'm stealing the joy from my life that I'm already living. So you just have to remember where you are, be happy and reflect, journal it. If you write down all the things you've achieved up until that point in that moment in life, you'll probably be shocked. I'm yet to even do it, because I know if I wrote it down, I'll be so proud how much I've personally achieved in myself since the show that I never knew I could.
Sarover, so proud of you and Ashley.
Yeah.
It's been amazing watching your journey, and it's been amazing seeing the growth. It's been very, very visible. And look, whoever's going to end up with you will be a lucky and really proud man. But if not, you've just got this amazing, fulfilled life to yourself.
And for you too.
Thank you.
We're both on that journey and that path. So I wish it for both of us.
Thank you so much. Say hi to your mom.
I will do. I actually will. She can't wait to hear this.
Oh, bless. But thank you so much for taking the time for joining me here today.